The story of Indonesia and how it came to be is a complicated one, full of peaks and valleys, ups and downs that would see a people liberated but not after much carnage was to be endured. Indonesia, now officially known as the Republic of Indonesia, was not always the peaceful island nation that many know and love today. This rapidly developing nation and home to a population upwards of 275 million people was many things but a holiday destination known for its hospitality and amazing cuisine. Known as the Dutch East Indies after it was conquered by the Dutch. This name came about when they managed to outlast both the Portuguese and British, who attempted to take over the lucrative spice trade in the region during the 15th and 16th century respectively. This 17,000 island nation of Indonesia has been a hub of trade for centuries. It began with the Srivijaya kingdom establishing trade links with China in the 7th century. Over time, foreign powers have been drawn to Indonesia's abundant natural resources, leaving their mark on the country's history. Hindu and Buddhist kingdoms thrived under Indian influence in the early CE centuries. Later, Muslim traders brought Islam, and during the Age of Discovery, European powers fought for control over the Spice Islands of Maluku to monopolize trade. Dutch colonialism followed for 3.5 centuries until Indonesia finally gained independence after World War II. However, Indonesia's history since then has been marked by turbulence, including natural disasters, corruption, separatism, a challenging democratization process, and periods of rapid economic change. Let us talk about the Dutch for a second. For most of the colonial period, Dutch control over the various smaller islands that make up Indonesia was negligible. Dutch forces were engaged continuously in crushing rebellions both on and off Java. The influence of local leaders such as Prince Diponegoro in central Java, Imam Bonjol in central Sumatra, Patimura in Maluku, and the bloody 30-year war in Aceh weakened the Dutch and tied up the colonial military forces. Only in the early 20th century did Dutch dominance extend to what was to become Indonesia's current boundaries. The Japanese invasion and eventual occupation during World War II ended Dutch rule and further encouraged the previously suppressed independence movement by local leaders. 2 days after the surrender of Japan in August 1945, Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta, influential nationalist leaders, proclaimed Indonesian independence and were appointed president and vice president, respectively. The Netherlands attempted to re-establish their rule, and a violent armed and political struggle ended in December 1949 when the Dutch formally recognized Indonesian independence. In the face of international pressure, especially from the United States, the Dutch finally transferred sovereignty to the United States of Indonesia. Despite extraordinary political, social, and sectarian divisions, Indonesians, on the whole, found unity in their fight for independence. People of different ethnic groups, creeds and religions under one banner, hence the country's motto today, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which translates to unity in diversity. During his presidency, Sukarno steered Indonesia away from democracy and towards a more autocratic nature of governing. To maintain his grip on power, he played a delicate balancing act among the military, political Islam, and the increasingly influential Communist Party of Indonesia. A terrible decision on his part, one he would later regret in his final years. This arrangement was tenuous, and tensions finally boiled over in 1965 when the PKI, the only major political party at the time, attempted a coup. The army, led by Major General Suharto, responded with a brutal anti-communist purge that resulted in the deaths of between 500,000 to 1 million people and the burials of nearly 1 million more in concentration camps. Some scholars estimate this number to be up to 2 million. This is yet another part of history that has seemed to be forgotten, partly due to poor record keeping and also because it is atrocities such as this that have the tendency to be swept under the rug by those in charge. The PKI was blamed for the coup and effectively wiped out. Blood flood on the streets of West Java, Jakarta, Sumatra, and Bali. It is said that civilians were decapitated, genitals cut off, women raped and many imprisoned for suspicion of being communists or sympathizers. The Americans are said to have been involved with supplying equipment that made this genocide possible because of fears that Indonesia would fall into the hands of the Russians. Suharto took advantage of Sukarno's weakened state and engaged in a power struggle with him before finally assuming the presidency in March 1968. Under his new order administration, and with the support of the United States, Suharto encouraged foreign direct investment, which was a critical factor in Indonesia's 3 decades of substantial economic growth. Over time, the structure of the economy has changed considerably. Historically, it has been weighted heavily towards agriculture, reflecting both its stage of economic development and government policies in the 1950s and 1960s to promote agricultural self-sufficiency. Although the country has done well being the largest economy in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, a diverse archipelago nation of more than 300 ethnic groups, has charted impressive economic growth since overcoming the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s. Today, Indonesia is the world's 4th most populous nation and 10th largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. It is still our duty to never forget what happened before, as history is part of the world we live in. Thank you for watching this mini documentary by Keiko Films. Until next time.